Hello, this is Evelina from spiritualitywithevelina.com. I am your tarot reader and your spiritual advisor. Thank you so much for joining me for this interview series. It would mean the world to me if you like this video and if you subscribe to my channel. I have so many other interviews and interesting videos coming for you, so keep on watching. Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Hello.
From wherever you are watching us. I am so thrilled to present to you an interview with an astrologer. We have Marc Pierson here today. He will be answering our questions. Welcome, Marc.
Welcome, Evelina. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Well, let me introduce you, Jean-Marc, who was born when Sun was conjunct Neptune in Scorpio, the Moon was in Libra, and Cancer was rising on the horizon. Brought up as a Catholic Christian, he absolutely loved Jesus Christ stories, but didn't fall in love with the church mentality. He started to read psychology books when he was 15. After a failed relationship, Jean-Marc became depressed and spent years climbing back to balance. In the meantime, he studied psychology at a university and got a degree. Shortly after, Jean-Marc moved to the south of France, found out that he was good at storytelling, and started to perform traditional stories of wisdom from various spiritual traditions, along with his own surrealistic and symbolic creations. Jean-Marc bought his first astrology book in 2004 and started studying and reading charts. He was surprised by the accuracy of some readings, especially when he started to work with karmic indicators like nodes of the moon and black moon Lilith. At the same time, he had the opportunity to travel to Peru and participated in ayahuasca ceremonies organized by the shamans of Iquitos. They were incredibly strong experiences. Jean-Marc then moved to London in 2008 to work as a self-employed gardener to retrain his storytelling skills in English and join public speaking clubs. He remembered his love for astrology, and in 2015, he kept studying like a Scorpio whilst keeping in love with the earth and being grounded thanks to his job as a gardener. He created his page, Astro Stories, and created a Facebook group, Astrological Buzz, in 2015. He doesn't claim to be a psychic, however, interpreting charts requires some intuition. And when he's reading the charts, he is working in psychic mode. He also practices spiritual healing. And if not for the Corona crisis, he would be training his psychic and healing abilities in Spiritual Church of London. Welcome, Jean-Marc. That's very interesting. I love your bio. And I love Scorpios. I have most of the time very instant connection with Scorpios.
That's a water effect because of your
Yes.
Pisces moon.
Yes, it is. So I checked your website, and the first thing that stood out for me, I love the quote on your website by Lao Tzu: "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." Tell us about astrology as a method to getting to know ourselves.
So I have two answers. One answer is for someone who is going to have a reading by an astrologer and a conversation over a chart. And my other answer is if you actually study astrology. So for someone who doesn't plan to study astrology but want to have a reading, you know, where the first thing to know ourselves is to pay attention to ourselves because consciousness goes where we pay attention. And and a conversation, a reading, it's an interaction where actually two persons join their awareness and their attention and their consciousness over what's going on in the life of a person. And I love astrology because I had the most meaningful and the deepest conversations with people through this way, by reading their charts. And it's a conversation when you just don't need to do small talk for a very long time, because you say, okay, let's go and read the chart. And the chart is just the right tool to asking all the right questions.
Okay.
Or about the deepest and most important things in the chart.
Basically, somebody can ask, who am I? What are my fears? What are my challenges?
Yes, what my purpose?
What is my life purpose?
Yeah, and why are my relationship difficult? Or what kind of, how can I sort out my, yeah, and
Overcome
so
my
on.
challenges. Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's never enough to have a reading, and then you've got to do the work. but but it brings clarity, and clarity is, you know, there is a big difference between being in the dark and having clarity.
Absolutely, yes.
And
It
my
definitely helped me researching my chart and my aspects. It definitely helped me to get to know myself. So what can you tell people who find out that they are an Aries or Taurus, and they read the description and they say, well, it doesn't sound like me, I'm not like that?
Yeah, that's very common. There are many indicators in the birth chart. There is not only, because there is not only the sun, but there is also a sun sign. It's a school. It's not a fixed list of character traits, and we don't have to be all, you know, the same person and the same personality just because we have our sun in the same sign. But if we take signs as schools, if you are at an Aries sun, you are at the school of taking action, basically. You are at the school of moving forward and being bold and possibly being a leader and being assertive. You have subscribed to this school, but some people are beginners.
Yes.
Some people are beginners, so they are Aries. But and some people can be very advanced, but they have chosen a special challenge which make it especially difficult, and so they don't come across as the majority of the students of this school are.
Okay, that's very interesting. This is not what I've known. You know, usually you see those memes on social media, and some of the signs have a bad reputation, like Scorpios and Capricorns, and some people want to identify with their sign and some people don't. But that explains, I really like that you say that we are in the school of our sign.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, most people know their sun sign. Let's talk about the most important indicators in our chart, which are sun, moon, and the rising sign.
Yeah.
How do we interpret that?
I will finish my answer to the previous question and answer this one at the same time. It fits very well, because my second way to answer is how to know ourselves with astrology. By studying astrology, I have another metaphor, which is that astrology is like anatomy, but anatomy of the psyche, anatomy of the soul. And if the question you're asking me is a question of anatomy. What is the sun? What is the moon? What is the ascendant? And you expect answers which are going to be true for everyone. And if you study anatomy of the body, I use that as a metaphor. What's wonderful is you are traveling and you are in Japan and you need to go to the hospital, and the Japanese doctor will know what to do with you because they have studied an anatomy that works with you, because we are all the same at some level. So when we study, with answering these questions is precisely understanding what is true for everyone. And it's much deeper than a quick explanation than 2 lines. And then jumping into what does this mean if it's in this sign or in this one. We can keep meditating over years. So the sun, the moon, and the ascendant are the 3 most important indicators. The sun is you, is us. But is us when we become who we truly are. And sometimes people say to other people, they say, be yourself. And if we can say to people, hey, be yourself, be authentic, it's precisely because it's not automatic. It has to be conquered. And so the story of life is to become and to create ourselves as an individual. And that's the path of the sun, which does that by learning the lessons of the particular school, of the particular sign it's in. And on Earth, the sun is born from the moon. So the moon, the sun is turned towards the future, the moon is turned towards the past. We were all born from a mother, and at the beginning of life, we were very, very close to our mother in a family, surrounded by a family, very, very sensitive to all the influences. And little by little, we take some distance and we become more and more assertive, and we become truly ourselves. So the moon is our origins, our influence, the genetics, the lineage, our ancestors, all the early conditioning.
Oh my God.
And so, and it's also the moon, it's our default setting, if you want. So if you are in a relationship with someone and your moons are compatible, that's great, because you feel at home together. Mm-hmm. And you can have your sun following different challenges in the outside world and be comfortable. And the ascendant is, if our personality was a kingdom, so you would have the sun is the king, the moon is the queen, and they live at the center of the kingdom. And hello.
my dog is asking me, why am I not getting any attention?
Yeah, the dog needs attention. So the ascendant is the border of our personality. We live as incarnated beings. There is the inner world and the outside world, and there is a border between inside and outside, and the ascendant is a border. That's how we interact with the world, and what we are going to perceive from the world, how we are going to appear to the world. It's really the interface. So
thank you so much. That is a very profound explanation, and it makes it so clear. So my moon is in Pisces, and it's almost like no matter what I do, I can't escape the spiritual world. Yes. The spirituality keeps on searching me, calling for me. It's everywhere, and I just can't escape it. Mm-hmm. I'm very attracted to all that is spiritual, and this explains it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we don't deny our moon. We somehow are born from the moon to express our individuality, but it remains as as our inner sensitivity.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So let's see what is going on. I'm sure that there are so many people that are asking this question. We
Yes.
haven't had anything like this, these times right now, these very interesting times. We haven't had that happening. What is happening in the world from an astrologist perspective?
Yeah, that's we. So I'm going to say straight away. When you sent me the questions, I was wondering if I would keep these questions because I am really interested. I came to astrology to study the human psyche.
Mhm.
And what you are, so the reading birth chart and the psychological astrology or karmic astrology for individuals. What's going on in the world is really not
Forte.
my focus.
Hmm. I
I
understand.
actually, I actually, with what's going on now, I'm starting to be more and more interested in this branch of astrology to see the connection between the planets and what's going on, but it has not been my focus. So it's not as an expert that I'm going to answer. But uh, if you are into astrology, it was not possible to ignore that in January 2020 we had this Saturn-Pluto conjunction,
Hmm. Two
and
very powerful planets.
yeah, two very powerful planets that meet. They meet every 34 or 35 years. So we don't have the end of the world every 35 years, but it's quite a rare event. Plus other big players, we had Jupiter joining in Capricorn, we had Mars joining. So there was really a very concentrated energy in January 2020. So it's like, the big wave has been set into motion.
Hmm.
And people ask, when is this going to finish? We don't know. The big wave has been set into motion. Now the planets will progressively separate, but the big wave, we have to deal with it. There is something which is really interesting about this is nobody as far as I know, for example, I received the newsletter from Astrodienst, uh, so which is one of the most famous websites with Liz Green being involved, and nobody predicted that it would be a pandemic.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so it's not possible to, and and Liz Green, I've read somewhere this, she says, we can try to do predictions and the future has always a way to surprise us anyway, which I quite agree with. So we knew that there would be these two big forces, Pluto making things really intense, and with Pluto, you find yourself in situation where it's a question of life or death. And when we have that with this pandemic, and usually Pluto attacks where it's weak. It could have been something else actually. And Saturn is the energy of structures. And in the world, the established structures are the governments or social structures,
Economy.
and, uh, and the economy and all. And so the energy of Pluto, which shakes and possibly destroys to allow something new to come out of it, is what's happening. And so January was an energetic peak, and they are still today. Today we have Jupiter conjunct Pluto, so Jupiter comes behind Saturn. And my impression, but I may be wrong, as I tell you, I'm not an expert in Jupiter expands, and Jupiter usually is is planet that is considered very benefic. So you can say, oh, now with Jupiter will bring luck and wisdom and things we are going to be better. But I don't think so. I think Jupiter is a planet of expansion, and when you expand what's going on now, I would rather expect the problems to be amplified. But as I'm telling you, I'm not an expert, and
And I
maybe
think it
Jupiter
can bring growing pains. When we grow, it's sometimes,
yeah,
it's oftentimes painful.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think it's a process, especially the events happening on this scale. It's going to be a process. I think, like you said, the wave was sent out,
yeah,
and now the ripple effect of the wave is going out in the world, and the changes, will be a process
yeah, of course.
for all
And
of this.
over the years, over the months and the years, we are going to adapt. When we are on Earth, we are going to adapt.
Mhm.
But yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you what else is coming this year. No predictions. We just have to um, make the best of these times and have faith.
Yeah, and there is climate change. That's also a big problem,
Yes.
and we need it to slow down. And this, my optimistic take on it is, there is something that forces us to deal with reality. So maybe something very good can come out of it.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So let's go back to astrology as
Yeah.
a method to getting to know ourselves, and so let's talk about Saturn's returns.
The Saturn return.
Let's talk about the dark night of the soul, when our life is falling apart, our foundations are crumbling, and it feels like the most painful time of our lives. But I've met so many people, and myself, I can testify that after that time, we often come out stronger and we rebuild our lives. So let's talk about the Saturn's return. What is it?
What is it? So Saturn return happens when we are 29 or 30. The cycle of Saturn is 29 years. And Saturn is a planet of, the principle of reality, down to earth reality, when we build our lives. So there are two possible effects with the Saturn return, especially with the first Saturn return when we are about 29 or 30. Sometimes people get married, sometimes people have their first child. And in our 20s, we may have made a number of experiences and possibly started to build our lives. And the first Saturn return is like a reality test. What you are building, is it strong? Is this worth? I say, will it take the test over time? Mm-hmm. And if what we have been building up till there was strong, okay, then it's a moment to take it to the next level. The foundations are established and you get to the next level. And it can be in private life or public life, career, whatever. It depends. Or Saturn comes and says, how this wall there, boom, yeah, what is not strong enough and what we better not keep for the next 30 years, it's a moment that's going to crumble. But now it also depends on the way we look at things, because sometimes something is crumbling, but another way opens, and maybe we didn't know that we were actually preparing ourselves for this other way. Mm-hmm. It depends of our values.
So what about the consecutive returns, the next Saturn's return?
Yeah, I've just had mine.
Does it work the same way? If we have built strong foundations, then we make them even stronger? Or I heard that the consecutive returns, which I believe there is no more than 2 after the first one.
Yeah, but if you reach the second is I'm 58, so twice 29, and if I live to be 90 like my father, I will have third. No, I'm really happy now. There is something which is difficult. Yes, it's difficult to reach to think. Oh, I am almost 60. You know. You know, I was 15, I was 20, I was 30. I was thinking, so far so good. I'm still young. I'm still, and 60. It's an age where people retire. And I have my little business as an astrologer, which is actually taking off now. So there is something similar to what could happen to a first Saturn return. I've been building slowly, and then I can take it to the next level, apparently. But it's it's accepting. There is a moment we can, we can have a middle-age crisis, and we can kind of think we are still young and still have life in front of us up to a certain point. But for me, the way I feel the second Saturn return is to say, okay, you are definitely not 20 anymore, and you've got to accept to be in the next age group. And yeah, I suppose it all depends of how. Yeah, there is a painful side to it, and there is a happy side to it, and I think it depends of
how we look at it. We have a
how
choice.
we look at it, how we deal with our own frustrations and our own lives.
The level of our awareness and the level of our consciousness.
Yeah, and how we deal with ourselves.
So what can you say when people say, oh, the Mercury retrograde or whatever planets are happening, consciousness above planets? I will not allow the planetary positions and the aspects, whatever is happening up there, to affect my life. Are we at mercy of these planets, or are we conscious beings creating our own reality?
I love the question. The tradition, the esoteric tradition, says that the human being is a microcosm, and there is the macrocosm. There is the universe around us with everything, including the planets above, and we are the microcosm. That means the whole universe is within. So if Mercury is retrograde, it's not just a planet over there showering us with an energy we don't like. It's part of the cosmic cycles which are happening within ourselves as well. So it's us. We are the universe in some way. It's us. But if we create our reality, we create our reality. But the cosmic clock, I call it the cosmic clock. I don't think it. If you look at your watch, you don't think the watch is creating the time. The watch is just telling you what time is it. And I think the cosmic clock is the same. It tells you what time is it. It happens at the same time of all the cosmic rhythms. It's a synchronicity, and it's happening within us, within ourselves at the same time. Well, I don't know exactly, but I think Jung thought that as well. So these are our energies, and yes, the more conscious we are, that is, the more we know ourselves, the more we know Mercury going retrograde within ourselves, and the more we know how to deal with it. And the cosmic energies are like the weather. So we are influenced by the weather. You know, if you plan to go for a walk and it's raining, you may change your mind or take a raincoat, or but you decide if you go for a walk or not.
Great, thank you so much. So tell us more about your services. What is your website? How we can find you? I know you're a teacher, so follow all of you who want to learn astrology, who want to learn how to read charts and get to know yourself better.
Yeah, how
Please
to
tell us
find
more.
me? You already mentioned the group Astrological Buzz, which, if you are for all Facebook users, it's free to join, and it's a good way to engage and read posts. My website, but there is my name written somewhere under this video.
Yes.
Probably Jean-Marc Pierson. If you know how to write it, you write jeanmarcpierson.com and you find my website. So I do readings. I do teach classes, small classes. I love having small groups, one-to-one. But you know, you are a Libra, and I have the Moon and Venus and Mercury in Libra. I love the one-to-one setting, or small groups. It's so much more interesting to
interact
much more than just being in front of people who have to listen only. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jean-Marc. I definitely learned a lot, and I know we brought so much value with this interview to all of our viewers. And thank you for explaining the astrology and your way.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for your Gemini rising, playing the role of the interviewer. That's so typical of a Gemini rising.
My Gemini rising interview and my Moon and Pisces interest in all the esoteric and spiritual.
Yeah.
Thank you. So everybody who wants to learn astrology, they can join Jean-Marc's group, Astrological Buzz, on Facebook, and his website is jeanmarcpierson.com. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hopefully we can do another one in the future. Thank you, Jean-Marc.
With great pleasure. Thank you, Evelina.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.